Hello, wonderful. This is Sarah, and I'm here with Dr. Erica Goodstone, and you guys are going to love this. She is a healing through love mentor, but you've never heard that before, who focuses on healing through love. Hey, Dr. Erica, how are you?
I'm doing great today.
Oh,
It's
well,
a good day.
it is a good day in our matching outfits. And we were laughing at that before. So if you're
I
just listening
love
to
when colors blend and match.
I know, though I want to be at your background. I've just got a boring wall and you've got a beautiful beach scene. So
Well, I live across the street from the ocean. I'm
oh, that's
there
lovely.
right now, but I love this scene.
Oh, I do too. And I love the conversation we're going to have, right? On healing through love. So tell us what it means to heal through love.
Yeah, we are so used to blaming and pointing a finger and feeling like a victim and not really accessing love. And it's because we're not really trained to love. We don't even understand what it is. But just think about a little baby that's crying and mommy or daddy picks up the baby and it feels so loved and you look in the eyes and it feels so loved. Um, that's what love is. But as we grow up and as we interact with other people, we're not so loving. We have thoughts and ideas and judgments, and each of us might not feel accepted or we feel we're better. There's so much going on. So it really takes an education to learn what is love and what is not love, or what is the opposite of love, or what is increasing love and what is suppressing it. When we understand all of that, we can begin to love more.
So that's what I want to understand. That is the conversation I want to have. That was actually came up in my group coaching Q&A last night, right? And they said, what is love? And I said, right now in a partnership, love feels like taking turns. Like if I had one little tiny about love right now, that's what it feels like at this stage of my life, is taking
And I
turns.
would say that taking turns is just a part of love.
Oh yeah, it was a ten
Allowing
second
you
answer. Yeah.
allowing you to be yourself and both express yourself, that's huge. That's part of intimacy. And
Mhm.
love is something more where you really are able to accept that whole person. Like if your partner had an affair. I
Mhm.
mean, so many people that I've worked with whose partner or they're the one who had an affair, one of them cannot forgive. It comes back over and over and over again. And when you're really able to love, not right away, because first you're hurt, but you begin to see that this person, this whole person, and this relationship is more valuable than the perfection, more valuable than, being upset by one thing that happened. Maybe that'll bring us closer. And also seeing what is my part in it, even if I wasn't the one that had the affair. So it's complex.
It's complex and super, because I also want to talk about what isn't love, right? Because I know some of my listeners right now are going like, but what if they are, have a pattern of abusive behavior? What if they have a pattern of anger? I don't think that's what you're talking about when you're talking about forgiving certain
Well, but
situations,
that
right?
pattern of anger can suppress the partner, or make that partner always be angry in return. So if you start to own, this is my stuff, this was, well, I have so much to say about it. Like,
Oh, I know. Yeah. We're
don't even
digging
know
into
where
the
to
hard stuff.
start.
Yeah. Well, let's start with what is love, right? Like, so how do you define what love is and what it means to be in a loving relationship?
Well, that's a perfect question because I uh, did this book. I created a public domain book based on a book, The Science of Being Well.
Mhm.
And Wallace D. Wattles created a principle of health. And I took that and realized that there is a principle of love. So I want to state it. It's the same principle because there's one life force and it can be applied to health and it can be applied to love. So there's a principle of love in the universe in full operation at every moment. Love permeates and penetrates and fills the interspaces of every cell in our body. every thought in our mind, and every relationship interaction that exists. Love is all there is. Love is the most powerful force in the universe. Love, in full force, eliminates all doubt, anxiety, fear, and hesitation. Unhampered love is the source behind all creation, all expansion, all success, and all joy. Love is the most potent medicine, the true healer of disease and ill health and poor relationships.
Mhm.
So,
That's
when
quite the
you,
manifesto.
I just love that, and I love starting with that.
Beautiful.
So,
Yeah.
when you're in a relationship, one thing to realize,
Mhm.
we think love, the people who like to give think that love is giving and always being more
Whoa,
loving.
whoa, 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 whoa. I want to point my listeners back to something because I'm always talking about people who see from their own perspective. Okay. So you said people who like to give think love is giving to others, right? That's a really important point to make.
Right. They think it's
Yes.
giving and they
Yes.
think I'm being loving when I keep giving. But I may not be giving what that person needs.
Mm-hmm.
And the piece that's forgotten is that love is also giving to yourself.
That's a
So
great
if you're
point.
so busy giving and giving, that's not really a gift for the other person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's why they talk about tough love. Sometimes the most loving thing to do is to speak up, to get angry, to show somebody by your response the effect of their attitude or their behavior.
Mm-hmm. So both giving and truth too, I mean, that concept of tough love, it's hard for givers. We always want to get better at what we're already good at in some ways. Like,
Well, that's exactly it.
yes, it's like, how can I be more forgiving? How can I be more giving? How can I be less selfish? It's like, wow, you're already giving to everyone except for yourself, and you've already forgiven so many things, right? So how do people flip that into a more healthy balance?
Well, it's really understanding so much, but I wanted to add the other piece
Sure.
that love is also receiving. So if you're
Yes.
always giving,
Taking
well,
turns.
well, that's right. That's good. If you're always giving, it doesn't honor the other person. They
Mhm.
start to feel inadequate or angry, and you don't understand. You're giving money or whatever you're giving, and they're angry at you. You don't understand it. But
Okay, why does that? Great conversation, great point. Let's dive into somebody's listening and they're going, oh, I've been trying. Maybe it's adult children, maybe it's a partner. Oh, they keep giving and giving and giving, and they're mad. What's happening? Why?
we have such different backgrounds. We grow up from the time that we're born, even in the womb, we're getting messages. If parents are fighting while the baby is in the womb, they're getting chemicals, you know, going to the brain, so they're already getting certain messages and sound, and so all through our growing up years we have a lot of input, and a lot of us ignore the past. We just think we can live in the present, and you're not living in the present. You have a brain, a limbic system that recalls all kinds of things from the past. I found that out when I was studying Spanish. I had moved to
Okay.
Florida and I was studying Spanish, and I would go to say a word like lunch and it would come out in French. And I hadn't taken French for 20 years,
Mm.
but that was in the back of my brain. And
Well, I'm
that,
a classical pianist, right? And there were songs I played. I can still play my college recital pieces. If it was, I don't really practice piano that much anymore. It's more for fun and a hobby. But if I sit down to play some extensively difficult Beethoven sonata, it's no problem, even though I've not been practicing because there's muscle memory and then emotional memory, right?
right, and it develops a pattern in the brain.
Yes.
So if you
Yes.
had some kind of pattern of abuse or whatever the pattern is, and you're in a relationship now, it may be something you haven't thought about in 20, 30 years, but something that person does. an expression on their face, a movement, a word, a tone of voice, and you're right back there with that memory and you're connecting it. And we have that going on all the time.
Well, and as kids, maybe the signals and chemicals in our brain and our nervous system are saying love is your job is to always be giving, right?
Or,
Always giving, right?
or if I give, I'm going to be a sucker and I'm going to be hurt. So, so you're not giving because you think I'm a fool to do that.
Yeah.
This person's not going to respect me. Or you think if someone's giving because your family, they were takers and that's what they valued, then you think someone who's giving is a fool. They're not worth loving. I mean, so you have these concepts and these ways of responding
Mm-hmm.
that really interfere.
Yep. Yep. No, I love it, and hate it, right? Because it makes relationships complicated. It makes
Wow.
love complicated, right?
But we want it easy. So we want to find,
Yeah.
you find this person who looks like they're going to be just what you want.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on. We're going to have to back that. Okay. Yes. So we want love to be easy. So we look for someone who may fit whatever happened, replicate our childhood, feels normal, or
Right,
like,
but we're
oh,
not looking for that. What we're looking for is someone who's going to heal us from
yeah.
whatever bothered us. But what we don't realize is that we pick up signals in the first few minutes or seconds of meeting someone. We have all kinds of signals: the look in their eye, the posture, the attitude, the tone of voice. We see that and hear that, but we might be listening to the words. So they're saying, I'm really a kind person and I'm so happy to meet you. But what they really are is hostile and angry, and you're picking that up.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Mm-hmm.
that fits with your background and your confusion in your own brain or the synapses, you think you found the ideal person. So at the beginning, they seem to be the ideal person because the sweet side is there, but underneath, the other part comes out after a while.
So what advice? I know everybody who's listening to this is going, whoa, 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 whoa. How do you make sure when you meet someone new that you're seeing a more clear version of them rather than getting caught up in that confusion? And
Well, that's a perfect question because that leads me to what I believe are the causes, the real causes of relationship problems.
do tell. Yes.
That's cute.
I love to talk relationship problems, obviously. And I love to talk relationship solutions. So yeah.
Not just the problem. Yeah, I can get caught up on just the issues and never get to the solution. I've done that. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the things is to know yourself. That's what it takes. It takes looking at your past, really telling the truth to yourself. It doesn't have to be to anybody else. Like, my mother was abusive, or my mother was overprotective, or my father was distant, or whatever the situation is, or I didn't have a father. I was adopted and I was surrounded by women or surrounded by men, or whatever it is. Really evaluate how was I brought up? What did I believe?
Mm-hmm.
What religion, race, what kind of prejudice did I feel, or what kind of privilege did I feel? If you really know yourself, then what do people say about me? How have I affected people? That's just the first one.
So I have a phrase and it says you have to know yourself to grow yourself.
Right.
Right?
And
That's what you're talking about. Yeah.
it's just one factor that
Absolutely.
you
Yep.
don't know yourself. Like, you think, I want to find a woman years ago. Now it's changed, but I want to find a really successful man who makes a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
But you may really need and be happy with someone who reads poems or cooks with you and stays home with you. So you find this successful guy
Uh-huh.
and he's traveling and he's not there and you're miserable and you're
So
fighting.
so I talk about it, what suits you, like figure out what suits you. Right. So I love to work, like I love to create and work and do things, create things. I need someone who also likes to work. Otherwise, I have guilt, like, oh, I'm ignoring them. And it's like, oh, but if you're like creating your path and I'm creating my path and we're just going together, that's knowing myself and then figuring out what suits me in kind of a,
Yeah,
is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I did good then.
And it's not just what suits you, it's also what are my dreams? Like it
Yeah.
might be suitable for now. Like you
It's
might
important.
find a sexy guy or a guy finds a sexy woman and it's great. But you have such different values and you have different goals. So, and it's okay if this is just going to be for now. And maybe it'll be sad to break up, but you know it, and you both know, hopefully, that it's just for now.
Mm.
But I mean, you don't have to always be living with your future in mind. But you got to
Everything you're saying, I just want to say, okay, is everybody listening to what she's saying? Is everybody okay? Because I hear women and they're talking about dating and it's like, oh, I have to find the one. And it's like, whoa, that's so much pressure to put on yourself, a relationship or, you know, a future version of you, right?
And so much is grace. Like healing is grace. You can't heal yourself. You can take all the steps to heal. The doctor can't heal you. The therapist can't heal you. You take steps, and with some grace,
Yeah.
you can heal.
Okay.
So it's the same with finding that ideal, so-called ideal person. There's a certain amount of grace or luck or good fortune, and you can get yourself ready and be receptive.
Get
And
yourself ready and get yourself out there, right? Like those are the two things, right? Because I want, there is some grace and fortune and good luck. And there are some people who are good at creating good luck for themselves. They're meeting a lot of new people. They're putting themselves in situations to meet new people, right? Versus, well, I just want to sit in my house and hope the, you know, universe sends someone to my door, right? Because I think that's important to know.
and the other side of it is quickly ending a relationship when it doesn't seem right. So
Okay, my listeners are probably giggling right now because you say all the things that I harp on, right? So, yes, ending the relationship so that the right person can come in when you know you're in the wrong relationship.
right, but you have to know. So that's the second piece. The second part, the first part is really knowing yourself and all the things.
Yes, yes.
The next one is really knowing and understanding who this other person is. So that's why
Uh-huh.
the person you meet in the first few minutes or the first few days or weeks. I remember hearing someone at my health club. She was so excited about this new guy that was texting her all the time, whereas her husband or her partner hadn't done that,
Oh, no.
and it's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
new relationship and she knew
yeah,
nothing about this person.
yeah,
You don't even know if he's living with someone at the same time that he's doing that.
yeah.
So it takes time to know another person, and you've got to ask questions and pay attention. What do their friends say? Are you seeing this person on the weekends? Have you been to their house? Have you met their family, their friends? What do you feel when you're around them? What are their goals and dreams, and do they match? There's a lot to understand. It's
And I
not
want everyone to rewind this and like make a list of the things she's saying. There's that little on the podcast. It's like go back 30 seconds and like and take detailed notes because I just 100% agree with everything you were saying.
thing. And then the next thing is to know the world, know how the world works.
So
So
know yourself, know them, and know the world. Is that what?
right, know,
Okay.
in other words, how the world works. In
Mm-hmm.
a spiritual environment or in terms of spirituality, you open up your heart, you get receptive, you breathe, you meditate, and good things come to you. But when you're operating in the world, there are things that work better than other things. So you meet some guy and he hasn't called or texted for a few hours or a few days, and you're texting him every minute, that doesn't work.
Did you see my blood pressure go up when you said text him every minute? I was like, oh dear, that's a horrible plan.
But that's what people do because you
Yes.
meet someone, seems great, maybe he texted a lot at the beginning, but he may be working or you don't know what he's doing, and give the person some room. And then
Neediness is not sexy,
that's the
right?
point. And
Yeah.
and there's another side where sometimes neediness is sexy.
That's
That's the
fair. That's
funny
fair.
part.
That is fair. Yeah, that is fair. But that would be more Probably not the early stages. And that would be,
Yeah, as you're getting to know each other,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you reveal that works when you appear to be tough and independent and I'm on my own, and then you show a soft side.
Mm.
That can be very appealing. But if
It's
all
that
you show
balance.
is the soft, needy side before they see other parts of you. So that's
Mhm.
why knowing how the world works, don't give it all away right from the beginning, but slowly open up and slowly
And again,
find
my
out.
listeners are going, that's what Sarah said. Like, you don't give it away at the beginning, right? Because I think so, what I've seen people do, and they've had bad things happen to them. And so it's almost like here, right at the beginning, let me tell you all the bad things that have happened so that if you stick around, then I think you love me through it. You'll love me through it.
And maybe that works for some people, but
Not many. Yeah. Yeah.
well, but there was a guy that talked about this, and this is an important thing. He is very into kinky sex.
Mhm.
So at the beginning, he used to not tell the other person. So they would get to know each other and get into a close relationship. And then he would spring it on the partner. And if they're not into that, it would be very upsetting. So
Yeah.
something like that, whatever it is, I like to work a lot.
Mhm.
Don't pretend that just because you're free for a few days that you're going to always be like that. So
Mhm.
there are certain things to share, but maybe not in the first few minutes or the first date or two, to give it a little
Well,
time.
and not sharing, not dumping trauma on the other person is really what I see, and it's like, oh, here, let me trauma dump and then see if you're going to, love me anyway, which is a great way to end up in a toxic relationship sometimes. Cause then people say, oh man, there's a lot I can manipulate there. There's a lot of, don't do that. So no, okay. Know yourself, know them, know the world. We've got to get to number 4. What's number 4?
Well, number 4 is know your own level of consciousness.
Okay. What
Because,
does that mean to you? Mm-hmm.
well, I'm thinking in terms of chakras and in terms of pathways to higher consciousness.
You can go there. I have plenty of listeners who love the woo woo. So, yeah, no levels of consciousness.
Well, there are
Dive
levels.
more into
The
that.
lower
Yes.
levels are security, where you everything has to do with security. So you choose someone because they have enough money or because they say good enough things about you because you
Mm-hmm.
don't feel good about yourself. The next one is sensation. The sensations have to be good. The sex has to be great. Not that that's a bad thing, but if that's the only thing or the major thing, you may be avoiding other things. And then there's the power, like who has the power. So you may like a relationship where the man is powerful and you can be subservient, or you like to be the one in control. Those are the lower levels of consciousness.
Let's
Then
go
there's
back to this. Were really good. Let's go back to that again. So, security.
right. So are you or your partner focused on security more than anything else?
Okay.
And if it matches, it may be a good relationship. Maybe you can grow together, get a little more secure, and get to some higher level.
And
Or
then the next, yeah, then the next would be like sensations,
yeah, they're
sex,
leading with
that kind of thing.
sensations,
Okay.
and I guess also emotion in there with the sensations. That that's also emotions,
Well,
and
I know a lot of my listeners right now are going like mind blown because that's like those two things is probably all they've ever thought about in a relationship, right? Like those two base levels. I love that you added power, right?
right. But
And
the third one is what happens. You have someone, both of them wanting security or wanting
uh,
sensation or both, and then one has a style of controlling and the other has the style of being quieter or giving, and there's such conflict
mm,
because then there's a power control and a fight, and at the beginning it could be okay because that's the way that fits their nature, but after a while nobody wants to be controlled, everybody needs to be heard.
mhm.
So then you get to the next level, which is love. That's where you operate at a level of attempting to love and
Mhm.
seeing the bigger picture and caring. And then you go up to an even higher one, which is the throat chakra or the next chakra, which has to do with expression.
Mm-hmm. Being safe to express, being safe to use your voice, being safe to hear the other person's voice.
And to know what your voice is.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
found something recently that I haven't noticed that over the years, but now it seems to be more common that couples will go for marriage counseling and each one also has their private counselor.
Mm-hmm.
So they go for their own counseling and they also go together. And I think that's perfect because in the couple situation, even if the therapist is really skilled, one person may not know what they really feel and the
Yeah.
other one may take over and say things. But when you have your own therapist there, then that person, that therapist can remind you of what really went on, that he was just talking too much and he keeps saying this to you. Well, what about what you feel? And then you go back into the couple session and you have more of a voice. So I found that's a
Beautiful.
great way to go for counseling as a couple.
Agree completely. So what's the next level?
Okay, so then the next level has to do with the third eye, and
Right?
that's the beginning of the spiritual aspect where you're seeing things through a higher consciousness perspective. And
So how does that coincide with like a loving relationship or
well, you could be in a loving relationship where everything's been beautiful and somebody gets sick.
hmm.
And I'm just thought of sickness and their personality starts to change. They're either very depressed or very angry, and you're suddenly the caretaker. So if you're coming from a love relationship, you may love them and you may try to do things for them, and then you start to really resent it because you feel like, God, I'm a caretaker and this isn't what I set out for. It used to be this and that and the other thing. Or the person no longer has money and you were comfortable in your lifestyle and now you're struggling. If you come from this higher spiritual perspective, you see everything, including your partner having an affair, as something on your path for you to learn, a message for you to start to learn and grow from, even if it's painful, even if you've had the most wonderful relationship and that person fell in love with somebody else and you have to split up. From that higher perspective, I had a guru, a teacher who taught about this, the 12 pathways to higher consciousness. He was quadriplegic, and his girlfriend at one point was in the house with him. I don't know what house this was or a training place, having sex in the bedroom with somebody else. And he spent the night meditating and focusing on it. And by the next day, he was able to forgive her, to love her, to accept both of them, and to feel okay because he tapped into some higher way of thinking and being. Not an easy way to be. Not that's
Oh.
like a spiritual perspective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I do know that when someone is dying, I experienced it watching my mother die, that anyone who's in the room with a dying person, there's only love.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what they were, no matter how they abused you or whatever they did that wasn't right or wasn't happy, there's only love at that moment
Mm.
when you're in there and feeling that. And
I had
then,
a I had a friend die right before our recording today. My father was in the room with her. Yeah, that happened like the 30 minutes before you and I met.
wow.
Yeah, yeah. That's yeah, terrible,
So
a young girl.
that's something, I mean, not mine's not quite like that. That's very sad. And I,
Oh no, it didn't. No, no, no. It's very sad, but it's just so interesting. Like even as our spirits speak, like that was the example you used, and I didn't bring that up, or but it was 30 minutes before, someone,
well,
a
I
very
honor
close
you
family friend.
for
Yeah.
continuing to have the interview in spite of that, because some people would suddenly be overwhelmed with emotion and not be able to do it.
Well, thank you. And as you probably guessed from my work, the beauty of it is through the emotion, right? and the hard stuff and the tough stuff. And that's all I know at this point. I think I've operated in those kind of somewhat higher realms and done this self-work, as I know you have, and when you get to that place, it's just the flow
really
of life.
honoring your emotions, and it's okay to be depressed, to pity yourself, to go through all of that, whatever the emotions are, to be angry, to be furious. It's okay. And you can keep staying with it and looking at it and examining it, and then it goes away. It dissolves, and somehow you get new ideas, especially if you surround yourself with not just loving people who love you where you are, but people who are growing themselves.
Well, why do you think I have this podcast and I meet people like Dr. Erica Goodstone, right? That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of these conversations and the beauty of like this crazy life we choose, where it's just like, I'm surrounding myself with people trying to operate on their higher consciousness all the time. It's a beautiful life, right?
And then you see how many are operating that way.
Yes, yes.
And but I am finding at this point that it's very hard to communicate with people who are not operating at that level, who are operating from the lower level. Security also comes along with fear. And when they're operating in a state of fear, and sometimes it's unfounded fear, it's not the truth, but it's what they're feeling. It's very hard. All you can do is share love and listen, but you can't get your point across. So that's a good segue.
Segue into what's left on our journey upward. Yes.
Oh, there's a few things like
we're running out of chakras, if I remember correctly.
I have two more things I really wanted to focus on. One,
sure, go for it.
What is a toxic relationship? I'm sure you talk about it all the time, but it isn't so much who that other person is, and that they're doing it to me. It's a lot about how you're feeling and what's happening. Like if you're constantly feeling unhappy in the relationship, it could be toxic, or it could be that this person is seeing you and tuning into some way that you behave and something that you do that maybe it's time for you to take a look at.
I think so. When people say, "Oh, I need, to research narcissism or to research red flags or something like that," and someone else, she wrote, an author in the abuse space, she said something very similar yesterday and said, "Examine your feelings. Examine your experience around these people, because it's all about them, right? If you're one of those givers, it's like all about them. I need to fix their childhood. I need to fix this, what's happening, and it feels scary, and it's an important journey to come back into ourselves and feel our feelings, right?
Because if you just blame it on them and say, this person's toxic and I have to get away, and you don't look at yourself and you have something that's plugging into that or exacerbating it, then it's only going to happen in the next relationship. You'll choose someone again and
know yourself, know them, know the world, and know, yes.
Your attraction might be towards someone like that.
Yeah.
So you leave this person, you're only going to choose someone else who resembles that. I did that. My first boyfriend, the next one 20 years later was just like that.
I'm sorry.
And in between, I didn't really love anyone. It was like, that was an eye opener for me, that it's the same kind of way that person behaves. And of course, some of the things that I'm sure you've talked about it, if someone's violent with you, really physically abusive or emotionally abusive, always denigrating you and putting you down, and there's no room for you to express your concerns, and you're walking on tiptoes, all of that is a toxic relationship. So probably better to get away from it. If you can distance yourself. Sometimes it's a temporary thing. You've both been so angry from whatever's gone on and that's going on, but distance can help. Because from a distance, if you really evaluate what you did, what the other person did, and what's gone on, and your backgrounds and the goals and all of that, then you may see maybe it wasn't as bad as it appeared to be because there's things that we didn't express, or much more. Sometimes you need distance to see the truth.
Clarity. Yeah, distance for clarity, right? I love that. You have brought us so many goodies and so much goodness. Tell people where they can find more about you and healing through love and what works for you.
Okay. My website is drericagoodstone.com.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And
ERICA. So it's drericagoodstone.com. And if someone would like a free consultation, it's a Love Mastery Secret session. You can go to lovenow.life/love mastery secrets.
awesome. And we can put that in the show notes, or I'm happy to
Sure.
put that in the show notes for you. Awesome. Thank you so much. Is there any one last word of wisdom that you want to say? Oh, I wish everybody knew this about love.
Okay, so I mentioned that there's this principle of love in the universe. And then I actually downloaded something about 30, and there could be more than that, sub principles of love. And like some of it is that love is a thought, love is a belief, it's a perception, it's an emotion, it's an action. So in every moment, stop and ask yourself a few questions. Like if you're feeling angry, ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? And what is going on and why am I feeling that? Love is nurturing. Ask yourself in the moment, in what way am I nurturing this person? In what way am I nurturing myself? Or in what way is that person nurturing me or not nurturing me?
Mhm.
Or love is appreciation. In what way am I appreciating this person or appreciating myself? And always remember to love yourself. Or is this other person not appreciating or not acknowledging me? So think of that in the moment. If you can, stop, take a breath, and think, what am I thinking? What am I believing? You know, am I feeling nurtured? And that can be amazing.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming and helping us with our journey to become toxic person proof.